I wish I could say I didn't see it coming. The wedding, the setup, the moment my own family would strip me of any remaining dignity in front of 100 well-dressed strangers, like I was the stain they'd tried to scrub clean one too many times. But I did see it coming. I just didn't think they'd actually go through with it. The venue was stunning, of course. A boutique event space in the heart of Mayfair, full of gold-rimmed glasses, harp players near the marble staircase, and carefully arranged white roses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. All of it to celebrate my brother Charles, the golden boy, on his big day. And me? I was just there for the seating chart. Somewhere near the back, near the emergency exit, like a forgotten obligation. I didn't even get a real suit. I wore what I had. Tailored enough to be respectful, but plain enough to make my mother, Diana Carter, visibly disappointed. She didn't hide it. Never did. As I was adjusting my cufflinks in the corner, I caught the whisper. "You're lucky we even let you attend," she said to me earlier that day, lips curled into that classic knot smile. "We didn't want you embarrassing us." Embarrassing. That's what I was to them. Not a guest, not a son, not family, just a blemish. I kept my head down and tried not to let it show. I found a quiet spot by the bar and held a glass of water like it was armor. Then came the toast. Frank, my father, stood tall, microphone in hand, grinning like a man about to win an award. "Today," he said, "we celebrate our incredible son, Charles Carter, a man of grace, intelligence, and everything any parent could hope for." Polite applause followed. Guests nodded. Champagne clinked. Then his eyes shifted to me. And of course, he said, his tone suddenly ice cold, "There's Ethan." Silence. The kind that fills a room like a fog. "Unlike some people in this family who've brought nothing but shame," he continued, "Charles has made us proud every day of his life." I felt my body go stiff, my hands clenched. My heart pounded in my ears. I stared straight ahead, pretending not to hear the gasps, the awkward coughs, the way people slowly turned to look at me like I'd just set the building on fire. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. My mother didn't stop him. She didn't even flinch. She sipped her champagne and nodded like he was reading from scripture. My brother, smiling. Not the proud kind, the passive kind, the kind that lets you know he was never going to step in. I was a disgrace in their eyes, always had been. Then a voice cut through the ballroom. "That's enough." Heads turned. The room shifted. And there she was, Lily Morgan, walking forward, jaw set like steel, eyes locked on my father. She wasn't wearing anything flashy. Just a classic black dress and that calm, composed power she carries like a second skin. Her presence alone silenced the murmurs. Frank scoffed. "Who are you to interrupt this?" "I'm the woman who loves your son," she said, voice sharp but steady. "And I'm not going to let you keep doing this." Before I could react, she walked straight to the stage, pulled the mic from his hand like she owned it, and looked out at the crowd. "You call him a disgrace," she said, "but let me tell you who Ethan Carter really is." My breath caught in my throat. He's thoughtful. He's patient. He's stronger than any of you have ever given him credit for. And unlike this room, she paused. He knows how to treat people with kindness. There were gasps, whispers. But Lily didn't waver. I've watched this family tear him down, make him feel like less. But tonight, that ends. And then she turned to me. Her hand reached into her purse, and for a second, I thought she was going to pass me a tissue or something. Instead, she pulled out a small velvet box, dropped to one knee, and asked me to marry her. In front of everyone. The room exploded. There were gasps, applause, a few muttered curses. My mother's wine glass shattered on the floor, but no one moved to pick it up. Frank just stood there, pale and speechless, while Charles looked like someone had slapped him with a wedding cake. And me? I said yes. Not because I needed saving, but because I had finally been seen. After that, everything blurred, people rushing up, some with congratulations, others with confusion, others still just trying to pretend they hadn't just witnessed a public implosion of a perfect family. But none of it mattered. All I could see was Lily. We left early, we didn't say goodbye, and I didn't look back. Her flat in Camden is small, cozy, full of plants that somehow all managed to stay alive, despite our mismatched work schedules and the chaos of everything. The kitchen light buzzes a little. There's a tear in the couch cushion we keep meaning to fix. But it's the first place I've ever felt safe. That night, I sat on the floor, back against the wall, suit still on, shoes kicked off, staring at the same spot on the ceiling like it might hold answers. Lily curled up beside me with a mug of tea. No pressure, no talking, just presence. When she finally spoke, it was soft. You okay? I let out a laugh, tired and hollow. That's a loaded question. She didn't smile, just nodded like she understood. 'Cause she does. I'm not mad at them, I said after a while. I'm just so done feeling like I owe them something. She reached out and took my hand. You don't. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Over the next week, the messages started pouring in. From Charles, hope you're happy ruining my wedding. From Diana, what you and that woman did was beyond disrespectful. You made a mockery of our family. From Frank, we need to talk. Come to the house. Not one of them asked how I was. Not one said they were sorry. Lily watched me read the texts in silence. She didn't push me to respond. You don't have to go back, she said. Every time the guilt tried to crawl back in, you're allowed to let people go, even if they share your blood. I wanted to believe that. But part of me still needed to know, was I ever more than a disappointment to them? A few days later, Lily came home from work and found me in the kitchen, apron on, kneading dough like it owed me money. She tilted her head. Everything all right, chef? I'm baking out my trauma, I deadpanned. She raised an eyebrow, then leaned against the fridge. How's that working out? I paused. Better than therapy. Cheaper too. We laughed. And then we didn't. Because under the jokes and the flour-covered counters, I could feel it, the shift. The space between who I used to be and who I was becoming. For the first time, I wasn't adjusting myself to fit their version of me. I was just me. And Lily? She didn't ask me to be anyone else. That weekend, we sat on the couch, the TV, playing some random nature documentary no one was really watching. She had her head on my shoulder. My fingers traced lazy circles on her arm. I don't think I've processed any of it, I said quietly. You don't have to yet. I exhaled. I keep thinking about how long I let them define me. Like I wasn't even living, just performing. She sat up slightly, her eyes locking onto mine. And now I thought about it, really thought. Now I want to start living for real. I want to build something that's mine. She smiled. That kind of quiet smile that says, I see you. You already are. The next morning, I opened my inbox to find a new message. Subject line, coffee? From Charles. Just 2 words in the body. 5th Avenue Cafe. Noon. We need to talk. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. But I knew I'd go. Not for closure, not for him. For me. 5th Avenue Cafe had always smelled like rosemary and regret. Tucked between a florist and a travel agency that hadn't updated its posters since 2012, the place had a kind of quiet charm, wobbly tables, scribbled chalkboard menus, and exactly 3 regulars who'd claimed their booths like territorial cats. It used to be my escape spot, somewhere I could breathe when home felt like a museum and my parents acted like I was a stain on the marble floors. Now it was neutral ground. I walked in a few minutes before noon. Charles was already there. He looked different, or maybe I did. No tailored tux, no champagne flute, no audience. Just him, nursing a cappuccino with foam art that looked vaguely disappointed. I didn't sit right away. Didn't think you'd show, he said, not looking up. I pulled the chair back and dropped into it slowly. Didn't think you'd invite me. He finally glanced up. Guess we both surprised each other. We sat in silence for a bit. I stirred sugar into my tea just to give my hands something to do. So, I said, talk. He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose like he was trying to squeeze out the right words. I didn't know they were going to do that to you, he said. The toast? I asked. Flat. He nodded. Yeah. That. The whole public flogging thing. Funny. You didn't look surprised. He said quickly. I didn't know what to do. You could have said something. I know. He looked wrecked. Not just guilty, ashamed. Ethan, he said, lowering his voice. They've always made me feel like I had to be perfect. And for a while, I liked it. The praise. The pedestal. But lately, it feels more like a prison. I leaned back. Your prison was padded with applause. Mine came with barbed wire. I know, he said again. And I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you. Not just at the wedding before that, too. I saw how they treated you. I just didn't want to risk losing my place. There it was. Honesty. Late, but raw. And for once, I didn't feel the urge to throw it back in his face. I nodded slowly. Thanks for saying that. He looked stunned. That's it? I've spent most of my life waiting for apologies that never came. I'm not about to punish the one that finally did. He blinked hard, lips pressed tight. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to be better. I want us to be brothers again. I didn't know what to say to that. I just picked up my tea and took a slow sip. He reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. What's this? I asked. Design contact. Guy I know from the agency I partnered with before the wedding. He's looking for fresh, freelance talent branding, identity, restaurant menus. Thought it might be something you'd want. I stared at the card. It felt like a peace offering. But more than that, it felt like he finally saw me as someone capable, not a burden, not the background. I'll think about it, I said. He smiled. That's all I ask. A week later, I had my first freelance gig. It was a menu redesign for a local bakery in Shoreditch. Not glamorous, not big budget, but it was mine. I worked late into the night sketching layouts and researching fonts, losing track of time in a way that felt right. Like I was building something that didn't depend on anyone else's permission to exist. Lily would sit across from me with a stack of her students' essays, stealing sips from my tea and reminding me to eat. You're glowing, she said one evening, stretching on the couch. Don't say glowing, I muttered. I sound pregnant, she laughed. Fine. You're radiating powerful freelance energy. I rolled my eyes, but she wasn't wrong. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had momentum forward movement that wasn't dictated by guilt, obligation, or comparison. Of course, that's when the messages from my parents started again. This time, they were polite. From Diana, we'd like to see you. Come for dinner. From Frank, let's talk. No drama, just a conversation. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete them either, because closure isn't just a door you slam shut, it's the one you finally lock, even if it takes time to find the key. Charles messaged me a few days later. Heard you took the job. Proud of you. I stared at the text for a long time, then typed, still figuring things out. But thanks. His reply came back instantly. Same. Let me know if you want to grab coffee again. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. And somehow, that was enough for now. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop and typed the words, what would my life look like if I never had to explain myself again? Then I saved it. Didn't write anything else. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from answers, it starts with the right questions. When I was a kid, I used to imagine my parents' house was a castle, grand halls, marble floors, polished silence. Back then, it felt like something out of a storybook. Now it just felt cold. The message from Frank had been short, like always, come by the house, tomorrow. Noon. No please. No explanation. Just another demand dressed in formality. But I went. Not for them. For me. To prove I could walk into that space and not shrink. Lily had offered to come with me, but I told her I needed to do it alone. Just text me when you're done, she said. I'll be here. The moment the front door opened, I felt my spine stiffen. Diana stood there in her usual pressed blouse, lips tight, arms folded. She looked me up and down like she was measuring how much damage I'd caused just by existing. You're late, she said. Some things never change. I stepped inside. The house smelled like pine cleaner and old tension. Frank was already sitting in his leather chair by the fireplace, flipping through a newspaper he wasn't reading. Charles sat on the edge of the couch, back straight, hands clasped like he wasn't sure if he was invited or summoned. I didn't sit. Let's get to it, I said. Diana didn't waste time. We need to discuss what happened at the wedding. I raised an eyebrow. What part? The public shaming, or the part where your other son's girlfriend proposed to the family disappointment? Frank set the paper down. This isn't about blame. It's about consequences. I almost laughed. Consequences? For whom? Diana's tone sharpened. You disrespected this family in front of everyone. By accepting love? I asked. That's what qualifies as disrespect now? You humiliated us, she snapped. We lost face in front of our colleagues. Our friends. I lost face. I cut in, my voice rising. For 26 years, I've been losing face so you two could keep yours spotless. Frank leaned forward. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm finally saying them out loud. The room was thick with silence. Then, quietly, Charles spoke. Ethan's right. Diana turned to him so fast you'd think he'd thrown a chair. What did you say? He swallowed hard but didn't back down. He's right. You crossed a line at the wedding. That speech, it wasn't about celebrating me. It was about tearing him down. Frank looked like he didn't know which son to be disappointed in first. I kept quiet for years, Charles continued. I let it slide when you treated him like a burden. I told myself it wasn't my fight, but it was. I just didn't have the spine to admit it. Diana's eyes narrowed. So now you're taking his side? It's not about sides, he said firmly. It's about truth. The silence after that was different, not heavy, just hollow. Frank stood up, walking slowly to the mantel, as if looking at family photos might reset the narrative. We just wanted what was best for you both. No, I said. You wanted one perfect son and one quiet one. One to shine and one to absorb all the darkness. Diana's voice dropped. We gave you everything. No, I corrected. You gave Charles everything. You gave me comparisons. The words hit harder than I expected. Maybe because I'd never said them out loud. Maybe because they were finally being heard. Frank looked at me then, not the glare I was used to. Just tired. Like he'd run out of justifications. I don't know how to fix this, he said. I exhaled. I don't either. But it starts with admitting that it needs fixing. No one replied. So I turned to leave. But just as I reached the door, Diana's voice followed me. You've become so cold, Ethan. I paused with my hand on the knob. No, I said without turning. I've become warm to myself. Charles followed me outside. The air was sharp, London's winter biting at our coats. We walked in silence for a block. I meant what I said in there, he said finally. I know. He glanced sideways. Are we okay? I thought for a moment. Not yet, I said. But this? It's a start. He nodded. I'll take that. That night, I texted Lily. It's done. She replied immediately. Proud of you. Come home. And I did. Back at the flat, Lily was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she sautéed something that smelled like garlic and fresh thyme. I wrapped my arms around her from behind and rested my chin on her shoulder. How was it? She asked softly. Hard, I said, but honest. That's progress. I pulled the business card Charles had given me from my pocket and set it on the table. Thinking of taking another gig, branding work, small pub opening in Brixton, she smiled. That's your style. Gritty, underestimated, full of heart. I kissed her temple, like someone I know. Later that night, I opened my laptop and returned to the document I'd saved. What would my life look like if I never had to explain myself again? Below it, I typed, probably like this. Quiet, simple, full of garlic and thyme, and mine. There's a kind of quiet that only comes after a storm. It's not peace, exactly. It's the space where grief finishes its last sentence and walks out the door. That's where I was. In the weeks following the showdown at my parents' house, I didn't hear from Diana or Frank. Not a call, not a note, just silence, the cold kind that tries to disguise itself as dignity. Charles checked in once or twice. Short texts, small steps, nothing grand, and I didn't need it to be. I had my life to build. Lily and I spent our weekends wandering local markets, her hunting for vintage books, me sketching design ideas on napkins with coffee stains. We started talking about getting a place together, something modest with big windows, maybe a kitchen that didn't leak warmth like a sieve. Work picked up, too. Clients liked my style, clean, clever, a little unexpected. I liked that they didn't care where I'd come from, only what I could make. I was finally living for myself. So when the message came, it felt like a ghost tapping on my shoulder. From Diana Carter, we need to talk. Tomorrow, noon, at the house. No hi, Ethan. No preamble. Just a time and a place, like nothing had ever happened. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I turned it face down and let it stay there. Lily didn't say anything when I told her. She just made tea and sat beside me waiting. I think I have to go, I said. You don't, she replied gently. I know, I said, but I want to. Not for them, for me. She nodded. Then go. And don't let them rewrite the story. The mansion looked the same. Of course it did. That's the thing about places frozen in ego. They never evolve. They just wait for you to come back so they can crush you under the weight of nostalgia and guilt. I rang the bell. Frank opened the door. His face was unreadable, but his eyes flickered with something unfamiliar. Regret? Uncertainty? You came, he said. I said I would, I replied. He stepped aside. I walked in. The living room was exactly as I remembered. Symmetrical, pristine, impersonal. The kind of place where nothing was allowed to feel anything. Diana sat in her usual chair, Charles was there too, which surprised me. He stood when I entered. Thank you for coming, Diana said, her tone clipped but not as sharp as before. We wanted to address the situation. I stayed standing. The situation? I echoed. Frank shifted. The wedding. The fallout. The way things were said. Said, not done. Said, as if they were just careless words, not daggers. I let the silence stretch until it started to burn. Look, Diana finally said, we've never been good at love? I interrupted. Her lips tightened. Emotion? I added. Vulnerability? Humanity? Charles winced slightly, but stayed quiet. We did what we thought was best, Frank offered. No, I said. You did what was convenient. You chose pride over compassion, optics over honesty. We didn't want to lose control of the family, Diana said. I blinked. You lost it the day you turned love into performance. They didn't deny it. Diana looked down at her hands. For a moment, I thought she might say something real, but she didn't. I'm not here for an apology, I said. I'm here to tell you this. Whatever happens next will happen on my terms. And what does that mean? Frank asked. It means I'm done shrinking to fit into this house, I said. It means I don't need your approval, your invitations, or your silence disguised as authority. And us? Diana asked, eyes narrowing. Are we just cut off? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't flinch. You're not being cut off, I said calmly. You're being reclassified. To what? She asked. To people I used to explain myself to. Charles let out a slow breath. Fair. I turned to him. Thank you for not staying quiet last time. He nodded. I don't plan to again. When I left the house, I didn't look back. Not because it didn't matter, but because I knew it never defined me. That night, I stood on the balcony of Lily's flat with a blanket around my shoulders, a cup of hot cider in hand, and her beside me, flipping through a notebook of apartment listings. You okay? She asked. More than okay. You look different. Maybe I am. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Tell me what happened. I smiled. I walked into the place where they once made me feel small, and I left without leaving a single piece of myself behind. A few days later, I got an email from a restaurant group looking to rebrand their identity. Big contract. Big step. When I submitted my final pitch, I signed it. Ethan Carter Designer, owner, founder, and just beneath that, I added something small, something just for me. No longer the family disappointment. Just the guy who decided to stop asking for permission.